The largest thing that impacts our lives is our diet. Everyone has the perfect diet. Some people say anything is good so long as it's fried. Some take a more balanced approach to what they eat. Others still believe firmly in asceticism. Today, we're not going to advocate for any of those, because there is one diet that outshines them all, at least in the bragging department, and it will never let you forget that it exists. Today, we will be discussing what might happen if veganism took over the world. First, we must define vegan. The most important aspect of being a vegan is that you can't use any animal products. This means no animal in your food, your clothes, or any other products you use. We will broadly apply this concept to many parts of human life. This also means we can't use anything like animal labor or testing. Go animal liberation! So welcome, one and all, to the One World Vegan Government. The most obvious thing we're going to cover is farms. Farms in general cover about a third of the earth. Now that sounds like a lot of land, and you would be right. But most of that land is used to raise animals, and they are going to need to live somewhere once we stop eating them, so we'll leave them this land. That leaves us with about 11% of the Earth's surface, or 21 million square miles. Can we grow enough food on this patch of land to feed roughly 7.5 billion people? Let's find out. We will take 44 of the most common fruits and veggies and list out their calorie counts per ounce. This is necessary, as each season we are going to have to change what is grown on any patch of earth. Next, we must find out how many ounces of this produce can be grown on each square mile of land. After an exhaustive search, checking yield records of different states, and taking the absolute highest, most recent, and justifiable numbers, we find an average yield for all 44 of our non-animal foodstuffs. We simply do some calculations and find out that each square mile produces on average 2,661,165,847.27 calories. Then we multiply by the number of square miles of farmable land, and we get about 49 quadrillion calories produced by our farms. This is good, as 7.5 billion humans require about 6 quadrillion calories a year if they're getting 2,000 calories a day. So we fed the entire world and saved a bunch of animals. Awesome! Well, not so fast. There's still something we haven't talked about. Fertilizer. This may come as a surprise to those of you who have never lived near a farm, but they stink, literally. One of the biggest reasons they stink is fertilizer. Most fertilizer is made from animals in some way, either blood, bone, or waste. This would disqualify many organic fertilizers as they use the same or similar things. Our only solutions are mineral and synthetic fertilizers. There are also some problems with these. If used too much, they can be detrimental to the crops. They can make the soil far too acidic to grow anything. But our biggest problem here is scale. Most farms use animal products like manure because it's easily available to them and cheap, if not free. If we prevent farmers from being able to use animal-based fertilizers, their costs are going to go up, way up. Furthermore, since the fertilizer market is about to shrink significantly due to restrictions on animal products rich in nutrients, we will have to settle for crushed rocks in the form of mineral fertilizers or industrially made synthetic fertilizers. The agricultural world is a complicated one, and numbers can be hard to come by. What is known is without fertilizer, you're looking at around a 50% decrease in crop yield that will only get worse the longer you don't have fertilizer. This is because of an idea known as the law of the minimum, created by German agronomist Karl Sprengel. In short, it states that plants require certain things to grow and produce food. If the soil which the plant is growing from has a shortage of something the plant needs, the plant will only produce as much as the most limited material will allow. Furthermore, different areas have different limitations based on their climate, population, and other plants that already exist there. So since the yields were set to the best possible outcome, let's apply some penalties. Since fertilizer will be much scarcer and much more expensive, we will apply a 50% penalty because in many cases it will not be profitable to use any, if it can be found at all. So we are down to 24.5 quadrillion calories generated, still well above the 6 quadrillion threshold, so let's keep going. Pesticides sound scary when you talk about all the chemicals on your food. Since we don't know what's in them, and we don't want to hurt animals, because that's the job of pesticides, we won't use them. The problem here is we already lose about 35% of the food we grow to pests. Now we have no pesticides, so we're just going to assume that number doubles. So of the 24.5 quadrillion calories of food we've grown, we are now down by 70% to 7.35 quadrillion calories. Looks like we are still above that threshold by 1.35 quadrillion. Cool. This is a conservative estimate as we lose about 35% to pests while using pesticides, and we have no reason to think this number will decrease in their absence. It is entirely possible to lose 90% or more since the pests will be going unchecked. So we have 7.35 quadrillion calories of food heading to market to be dispensed among the population for their vegan stews, stir fries, and salads. Now we get to talk about spoilage. As it stands, we lose about 25% of all food we produce to spoilage. This is before anyone gets to eat it. Since salt is the world's best preservative and it's not an animal product, we will assume this number stays consistent. So now we have 5.5125 quadrillion calories of food feeding the population. Well, this is unfortunate. We are now about half a quadrillion short of our goal. Well, we will just assume that people manage to squeak by. After all, nothing bad has ever happened due to a lack of food, right? And it's not like higher prices to grow the food and lack of it will raise the price significantly, right? Well, now we have another problem. All the animals we let loose are starving to death. Since these animals were used to people taking care of them and providing them with nutrient-dense food, now they find themselves with no one to take care of them, and they're dying. This is common of domestic animals let loose in the wild. Also, the food they eat was often made of parts of stuff we grew that we couldn't eat. This means that the amount of food we could produce for them has been equally cut by the amount of food we can produce for ourselves. Many of the animals have been domesticated for so long they're dependent on people. Like sheep, they will simply die or be hindered to a stupid degree due to their lack of care. Also, no one is going to offer to feed or care for the now abandoned animals, as there is nothing in it for them. Don't worry though, nature has a solution for this. Some animals won't be dying. In fact, they'll be doing better than ever. Carnivores like wolves, large cats, snakes, lizards, and bears, as well as many other, will be having the feast of their lives, and their numbers will explode as a result. The lands left for the domesticated animals will become a wonderful buffet for the hunters, as animals who have never had to defend themselves are now dropped into a sink-or-swim situation. Any wooded area will become much more dangerous due to the now very well-fed predators, who are much healthier and stronger on their diet of beef, lamb, and chicken. Since everyone is vegan, we simply can't kill these defenseless predators, and so we will just have to let them be. Speaking of defenseless animals, what about all those pests I mentioned earlier? Well, they too will see a huge uptick in numbers. Since we can't use pesticides, they will be allowed to run unchecked over our burgeoning and defenseless organic farms, eating everything they come across. Wheat fields will look like a Bible story come to life as waves of insects devour and breed to their heart's content. Mice, who like fruits and grains, will swarm over fields like waves of furry water, as they currently do in Australia, eating everything they can, exploding in population almost as fast as the insects. Rabbits and deer will enjoy a much-needed break from being hunted, since there is easier prey to be had, and will strip gardens bare as no one and nothing is hunting them. It will be pandemonium, as all we have done to stop them in the past is laid down to be friendlier with our animal kin. What happens in the animal world will be nothing compared to what happens in the human world. As food prices climb, people will stop buying non-essential products and services. Since there is less food that can feed the population, food will now become the most expensive thing people buy. For example, look at Venezuela. This will bring us right out of a post-scarcity mindset. Things like computers, smartphones, and fashionable clothes will be ignored so people can feed themselves. This means that these parts of the economy will collapse. The funny thing about sections of the economy collapsing is that they usually cause other sections to collapse as well. Businesses will start shutting down one by one, causing large numbers of people to become unemployed, making them unable to buy food or really anything else, starting the cycle all over again. Eventually, you will be left with only the agricultural sector and the military, i.e., the government. It's safe to say, before this point is reached, people will start trying to hunt and eat animals. Since it's almost impossible to reason a starving person out of not eating what they can catch, we are going to have to make some examples. We are going to make it a capital offense to hurt any animal. After all, it is the only vegan thing to do. People don't matter. And we have too many mouths to feed as it is. You may think getting rid of some of your people would be a solution to your problems. Well, they may just be the start. Soldiers require more food than an average citizen. We can get by on a 2,000 calorie diet because we're mostly sedentary. Well, soldiers aren't sedentary. They will easily eat 2 to 3 times as much food as their civilian counterparts. This means you're going to have to earmark food for government use. This move is going to make you very unpopular, as people are beset by bugs, rodents, and larger, stronger predators than ever before in the moments that they're not starving. Here is where the riots begin. No one is as unreasonable as a hungry, angry person, and you're going to have a lot of those. You can always have them dealt with, but that has its own problems. People usually try to deal with their problems directly, but when it doesn't work, they'll look for ways around the problem. This means soon they will be attacking your supply lines, as well as burning farms and cities. Why are they burning farms, you ask? Well, this is because of the "if I can't have it, no one will" mentality. It won't take much persuading to convince just enough of your hungry population that farmers and farms are the problem because they're not producing enough food, which will lead to the absence of farms being a problem for much longer as they are burned into unusability by angry, starving peasants, because now they are peasants. This will have one of 2 outcomes: the ousting of the vegan world government, or the world will change where the super-rich aristocracy of the world government forces the rest of the world into subservience, with lives resembling that of peasants in the Middle Ages, only with no meat to look forward to. Either way, congratulations! You have set the course of human events back centuries, if not millennia, and condemned the largest part of the remaining population to live lives of fear and poverty regardless of the outcome. This is only hypothetical, however. Events with this premise could be much better or worse, but when we deal with absolutes, such as absolute power, it will almost always be worse.